The particulars of the offense are that on the night of 28th and 29th November 2015 at Ward 8C within Kenyatta National Hospital within Nairobi County, jointly with others not before court, murdered Cosmas Mutunga Kenyatta. The prosecution called 18 witnesses supporting the case against the accused persons. The prosecution led evidence establishing the circumstances surrounding the deceased's death, who was a patient at KNH Hospital. PW2 Celestine Mwende Kenyatta, widow of the deceased, testified that she visited the deceased daily. On the 28th November 2015, she attended the hospital midday visit with her nephew, Mutinda Kimanzi, returning later at 16 hours and remaining until 19 hours. During this visit, the deceased received 2 male colleagues and later other relatives, all of whom he recognized and communicated with independently. He could sit, that is the deceased, eat and converse without assistance. There's other witnesses who have testified. I seek your indulgence to skip now the summary and go straight to the analysis. I have considered the totality of both the prosecution and defense evidence in the light of the applicable law, including the submissions. I find the following to be the issue for determination: whether or not the accused persons caused the death of the deceased. Having considered the entirety of the evidence presented in this matter, the court is called upon to determine whether the accused persons are guilty of the murder of Cosmas Mutunga Kenyatta, a patient admitted to Ward 8C at KNH on 28th November 2015. The charge framed under the Penal Code requires proof beyond reasonable doubt of the essential elements of murder, namely that the accused caused the death of the deceased with malice aforethought. Malice aforethought entails an intention to kill or cause grievous bodily harm or a reckless disregard for human life. The law is settled that where there is a reasonable possibility of innocence, the benefit must favor the accused. The prosecution relied on circumstantial evidence and the testimony of witnesses to assert that the accused nurses present in the ward on the night in question caused the violent death of the deceased. The evidence establishes that the deceased sustained multiple injuries, including stab wounds to the face and head, a missing eye, fractured teeth, and other blunt force trauma, and that a blood-stained metal bar was present in the ward. Several witnesses, including relatives and co-patients, described the deceased as being in good health prior to the incident, while hospital staff described his critical medical condition, immobility, and inability to communicate independently. The defense presented detailed testimony from D1, 2, and 3, all nurses on duty in Ward 8C, and defense witness 4, a cleaner. They consistently testified to routine night shift activities, including administering treatment, turning immobile patients, checking vitals, and securing the ward. They observed blood on the deceased and a metal bar nearby only upon discovering the deceased body, at which point they promptly called security and police. All testified to wearing gloves, being in uniform, and taking procedural precautions, including reporting the incident immediately. The ward is shown to be inherently porous, with multiple entrances, sliding windows lacking locks, and corridors providing external access. No security personnel was stationed on the floor on the night in question, and visitors had been present until after visiting hours. Upon careful analysis, several critical gaps in the prosecution case emerged. First, there is no direct evidence linking the accused to the metal bar or the injuries sustained by the deceased. No fingerprints, DNA, or eyewitness account places any of the accused in the act of assaulting the deceased. Second, the prosecution has not established motive. The accused had no prior relationship with the deceased, who was a bedridden cancer patient, and there is no evidence of animosity or reason to commit the act. Third, the ward's layout and security deficiencies permit multiple possible avenues for an unknown third party to have gained access to the deceased. Fourth, The accused were observed performing professional duties throughout the night and acted upon discovering the deceased, which is inconsistent with the conduct of persons who had intentionally inflicted the fatal injuries. The standard of proof in criminal law is proof beyond reasonable doubt. See Wilmington versus DPP 1935, establishing the presumption of innocence and that the burden rests upon the prosecution. From the record, the evidence against the accused persons was largely circumstantial. The Court of Appeal in Sawe versus Republic restated that for a conviction to be founded on circumstantial evidence, the circumstances must form a complete chain pointing unerringly to the accused's guilt and must exclude any reasonable hypothesis of innocence. Similarly, in Msili Tulo versus Republic 2014, the court held that such evidence must irresistibly lead to the inference that the accused and no one else committed the offense. In the instant case, the evidence demonstrates that while the deceased's death was violent, the prosecution has failed to eliminate reasonable doubt as to the identity of the perpetrator. In general, the circumstantial evidence did not form a complete and an unbroken chain, pointing irresistibly to the accused persons as joint perpetrators of the offense. The circumstantial nature of the evidence, absence of forensic linkage, porous word security, and credible alibi and routine activities of the accused preclude a finding of guilt beyond reasonable doubt. Having considered the elements of murder being death caused by the accused and malice aforethought, the court finds that neither has been established. The accused persons did not act with intent to kill or cause grievous bodily harm, and there is no evidence to rebut the possibility that the fatal act was committed by an unknown third party. The death, while tragic, occurred in a hospital environment where access could have been gained by others and where the deceased's pre-existing medical condition required constant care. In the circumstances, the prosecution has not discharged the evidential burden required for a conviction. The court is bound by the principle that doubt in the prosecution's case should be resolved in favor of the accused persons. Accordingly, the court finds that the accused persons cannot be held criminally responsible for the death of Cosmas Mutunga Kenyatta. Consequently, the first accused, Priscilla Wairimu Njeru, the second accused, Godfrey Murithi Gashora, the third accused, Rosemary Nkonge, and the fourth accused, Mary Mudhoni Kamau, are hereby acquitted of the charge of murder. They shall be released forthwith unless lawfully held. Orders accordingly. Remind me your name?
Ndolo. Yeah. Yes. Ndolo Felix.
You will also be asking that the security documents that they are the security documents be released to the depositor.
Where are the sureties? Security documents shall be released.
And there was cash bail for
Released to the deposit, to the contact person. Cash bail to be refunded.
Yeah, I would also humbly ask for the judgment. I think it is well written.
Yeah, just a bit of typos.
Yes.
And then I think the room is also dark. I want to go through.
Yes.
You will find it on Kenya Law in the next 1 hour. Yeah, or you can also get a hard copy from the court admin or the DR. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, my name.
Okay. Thank you.